So I'm passionate about USA manufacturing, and exporting is critical to the success of USA manufacturing, and it's really helped our company. And today I'm going to be talking with you about 6 tips that we've learned over the years that have helped us grow and export. We export to over 39 countries. We make everything in America. We import nothing. We use American steel from Illinois and Pennsylvania, Indiana, and we make it all in Baltimore, about 3 miles away. Very thrilled to be honored to speak with this organization today. So, stepping back a second, exporting is really critical to the success and health of factories. The average American manufacturers pay their employees about $82,000 a year. However, if they're an exporter, on average, they're paying in the low 90s per employee per year. It's a wonderful way to pull people from poverty into the middle class. And this is how you could really differentiate yourself and make your company more robust, because only 4% of the world are Americans. 96% of the world lives overseas. So that's where the bucks are. That's where the money is. And a lot of people think in the current climate that exporting is really passé, or it's not really the future, you should focus in on domestic. Well, it's actually wrong. I mean, exporting is growing. It's quadrupled over the last 25 years. And right now, a lot of people have been talking about how bad trade agreements are and how they're not working. Well, the facts don't bear that out. And in reality, countries that we have trade agreements with, we have a surplus with those countries. Countries we do not have trade agreements with, they're eating our lunch. We have a deficit of $639 billion with countries we don't have deals with. So, one thing to think about when you're considering exporting, I would highly encourage you to first start with free trade agreement partners, because they have deals worked out that are going to be more fair to you, as opposed to other countries where we don't have FTAs, free trade agreements, where they could run circles around you. So I just want to kind of give that broad perspective. And half of all manufactured goods in America don't go to an American company in America. Half of all manufactured goods actually get exported. So manufacturing in America relies on exports. Exports are critical to the health of manufacturing. So as I mentioned, we are 20% of our sales are exports, and recently we've had to hire people to handle all the new exports. Six new full-time employees: Josh, who's a welder; Caroline, a machine operator; Stephen, who's another machine operator. So just so you know, kind of stepping back, we're a 50-year-old company. I bought the company 20 years ago. We make things like baskets that go down production lines for Toyota, Merck, Pfizer, Toyota, Ford, General Motors, and they put their parts in our baskets and they go down the production lines, and robots pick them up and go into their various lines, and they get washed and cleaned. So we make baskets like that. So the number one point dovetails nicely with what Ray was just talking about. Here's tip number 1. Highly recommend, to boost your sales, be proud that you make your stuff in America. That's unique. That's different. The Made in America label is a very good brand. You want to wave your flag when you're selling overseas. People are impressed and pleased when they find out that you are making this in America. It helps you because they know that there's integrity and quality behind that. American companies have a very good karma in overseas perception. It's amazing. I think in America, we actually think worse of American manufacturing than how overseas clients perceive us. It's a big win, it's a big positive to say that. I highly recommend you weave that into your narrative. Here's some more of our employees that we recently hired. Jerry is a laser operator, Greg is a fixture engineer, and Doug is a maintenance employee. Again, these people were hired because we're growing our export sales so much. Here's tip number 2. Sell on intellectual property. Sell on engineering. 20% of my employees are degreed mechanical engineers. That separates me from the pack. Most other people in other countries, they sell on low price, right? I got the cheapest price for you. We don't sell that. We sell on, we're going to give you the most innovative product. We're going to give you products that either have patents or have a lot of thinking behind it, and that's what differentiates us. That's the Marlin moat. That's the moat between us and the cheap prices from overseas. But in most cases, in many cases, American factories can utilize that same technique because you have a lot of intellectual property, and that's what differentiates you between your competitors. They're going to sell on price, you're going to sell on intellectual property. Other things we make are mesh baskets for washing parts and components, and again, in production lines. Next tip, 3, sell on quality. This is a little bit back to the American analogy. People feel good about buying great quality. There's more value there. That's critical to, again, differentiating yourself. You're not going to sell on price. I pay my team 30, 20 times higher than what they pay for employees in India, 20, 30 times higher than what they pay for in China. However, my biggest client is an American company, has a huge factory in Mexico, and we just signed a contract last week where they're closing down their Indian vendor relationship, and they're bringing in all the business to America. So we won 15 new SKUs. They're winding down the Indian vendor, and they're moving it all to Baltimore with Americans making it in Baltimore City. That's because every time they open up that box in Mexico, which we ship to them once or twice a week, a tractor trailer, once they open it up, it's right. They don't have to spend a lot of time doing quality. They just go, it goes right on the production line, and they're rolling. And they feel good about that, and there's no drama. So play that up. That gives them a lot of comfort. There's a lot of value to just being part of their system because they know your quality matches their quality expectations. Timely delivery is also critical. The Indians, in this case, were always late, thankfully. If they were on time all the time, that would be part more of their moat. But because we're always on time, we're nuts about it. We have deep inventory. We always ship on time. Our clients have a very smooth operation in their facility, and because of that, they can ship to their clients on time. So shipping on time will differentiate you from your competition. When you talk with new prospects overseas, highly recommend weaving that into your conversation because the American appreciation for being punctual and on time is usually lost on your overseas rivals. They don't buy into that, or that ethic is not deeply ingrained. In America, you got to ship on time. Tip number 5. We are very lucky about the U.S. federal government relationship with American manufacturing. The U.S. government has done an extraordinary job of helping American factories grow overseas. And the techniques that they have used have really helped Marlin, but I think they can also help your company if you're just dipping your toe into exports. And there's a number of different programs they do. Basically, it's in 2 buckets. The first one is in counseling, and the second one is in marketing. And I'm going to dive into each one a little bit deeper, but it's basically in those 2 buckets. So tip number 5 is the federal government's assistance overall, but let's go into more detail. In counseling, they have 5 elements of trade counseling that are extraordinary, and I encourage you to exploit them, because this will help you sell more. Number 1 is they'll help you with just creating a general plan or strategy, identifying which countries you should focus in on. So like, for example, in America, at Marlin, we sell to entities that are precision-oriented. They're very focused on very high-quality, highly engineered products. To be blunt, I'm not going to do great in a country that has no industrialization. Okay, so we should just ignore certain markets and focus in on highly industrialized markets where they really care about precision, about quality, about tight tolerances. We're going to thrive in those worlds. Canada, Mexico. We're going to thrive in Japan, and we're going to thrive in Germany. Those are the kinds of countries Marlin should angle towards. Well, the federal government's program with planning and strategy will help you identify yours, because your paradigm is different than mine, but they'll tip you off, hey, focus in on these countries, don't waste your time over here. Number two, they'll help you with legal and regulatory issues. I'm not a lawyer, okay? And I'm not good at legal topics. I'm not good at regulation topics. I'm good at other things. My team, we're a small company, so we don't have a full-time legal staff. We don't have a full-time regulatory staff. The federal government has an extraordinary program where they'll help you with things like export licensing and understanding the global standards. So these are the kinds of things that the federal government can help with. In addition, they can help with things like documentation. Again, this is a weak suit for Marlin. We're not good at this, okay? So we rely on the federal government to give us advice on these kinds of things, knowing what the tariff rates are, filling out various schedules. They also, if a problem arises, they have an advocacy center where they'll help you protect your interests, so you don't have to get lawyers involved right away. And five, financing topics, like for example the Export-Import Bank, where you could really differentiate yourself with your competition, where you could offer very generous terms, sometimes in multiple years, at a very modest premium. And this will, again, be a moat for your company, so you'll have courage to extend basically loans to your clients, so they stick their neck out and buy from you. The federal government, through the Export-Import Bank, will protect you, and they particularly love small businesses, and they don't mind if the transactions are tiny. Regarding business matchmaking, the federal government has 9 programs, 9 ways to help that I recommend you exploit so you can grow your company. So the first one is they'll give you a list of potential partners. They'll help you compile that list. Prospects that you would have no idea you should pursue. Let me give you an example. I went to Korea to try to sell baskets in Korea. Okay? The federal government, through a program, set up a driver, because I couldn't read Korean writing, okay, so I couldn't drive safely in the streets, and they set up a translator that would help me talk with the Koreans, and they gave me a list of companies that I should visit. Same thing, by the way, with Vietnam. Okay, I can't read Vietnamese, so I would have been a terror on the road there. Okay, and I obviously can't speak Vietnamese. So the federal government's assistance in these matters is extraordinary. They gave me a list of people to visit with. They gave me a translator, and they gave me the intel to make me efficient and effective on that limited time when you're traveling abroad. And they provide matchmaking. Ray referred to this a couple minutes ago with the Gold Key program. A++. I mean, when we talk about federal government, a lot of times people talk about bureaucracy. This is where they rise to the top. They're civil servants who are doing extraordinary jobs to help us grow. Number 4, they have multiple trade missions. You can tie your company to their rising star and be part of the trade mission. 5, they do trade shows. 6, they do all kinds of in-country promotions and websites, and you could be part of their local language websites. They do all kinds of country and industry reports, and they'll do, again, market research just for your industry, just for your company. And they'll even go down to trade data and tell you exactly which companies you should pursue and exploit. So the bottom line is use the commercial service of the federal government. They're a gem, and they're one of the best parts about our government. It's not just the federal government that's so helpful to your company. Also, state governments are very helpful. This is a picture in our factory, and right here is the governor of our state and the secretary of labor in our state. And these are all teammates in my factory, and they came out and toured our factory. States are very supportive of companies, and some states are very aggressive with trying to push exports. I don't know all the details about all states, but I'll tell you a little bit about Maryland because I'm very aware of what's going on with Maryland, and maybe some of the programs that Maryland's doing, they're doing in your state, and you could explore whether or not they have similar or even better programs in your state. So tip number 6 is hit your state up, okay? It's not just the feds that are going to be a great resource. So my final and last tip is hit your state up. Let me just zone in a kind of a case study on how great Maryland is for helping exporting. But again, your state might have different programs. So they have 3 zones: international centers, delegations, and all kinds of research that Maryland helps with. I mean, they call them the 3 zones, or Export Maryland Grant Program, the FlexX program, and Trade Show Support Program. So, for example, the Export Maryland Grant Program, they'll literally give you $5,000 as a grant to make brochures, to improve your website, to do all kinds of different activities, flying overseas, mitigating your cost for traveling overseas to boost your sales. In addition, in Maryland, they have 18 sites overseas where you can have a home base overseas, where you can have people that will help you try to grow your company's sales, and you can rely on them. These are full-time professionals overseas working on our behalf. I had the privilege of working with the Chinese staff, and they took me to on a sales call to Suzhou. Now, not many people have ever heard of Suzhou, right? I had never, okay? So I flew into Shanghai, 30 million people in Shanghai, enormous city. And they said, well, we're going to take you to Suzhou. They have a translator, again, a driver. We drive out to Suzhou. It's like, Suzhou, it's pretty big. And this is an hour and a half outside of Shanghai. Oh yeah, it's a little suburb, it's a tiny suburb. How many people live in Suzhou? 5 million people live in Suzhou, okay? I mean, China's huge. I mean, that's 9 times bigger than Baltimore City, right? It's a little suburb you've never heard of. It's an insignificant suburb in China. Anyway, huge prospect. We ship them, today, we export to them containers of wire forms we make in Baltimore. Anyway, my point is that this happened because of that connection. That connection we were able to exploit that. So I would inquire with your local state, maybe they have a state representative overseas that you could pair up. They also do great trade show support. Maryland does all these different trade shows. And what will happen is you can go underneath their umbrella for a very subsidized rate and have presence at a trade show overseas that fits your market. Maybe your state does the same thing. And I just wanted to thank these 3 people for all the intel on some of the programs so I could help. Jessica, Ken, and Andrew, they were great help for me. Did you have any questions? I thank you for your time. Please.
So the FlexX program is a Maryland program. It's not a federal thing, it's a state program.
It's been described to me as a Maryland program, that maybe there's other states.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
I have not heard of it in Illinois, but I'm going to check.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have something that goes by a similar name.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been to the China office overseas, and I think we've had an office there almost since Deng Xiaoping was leader. So Maryland has very strong roots overseas, and that's one of the things we do. I mean, I don't know Illinois. I can just tell you about Maryland. So I would encourage you to pursue the state support.
Yeah.
You know, the feds are not the only ones. Although the feds are A+, the states also offer great things. Some do.
North Carolina has a similar program.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Yeah, I didn't know about each state, so I just could speak to one well. Please.
Out of curiosity, what was the non-compliance rate of the Indian manufacturer that you were able to win?
They never tell me.
No?
No, I'm dying to know, but they...
I am too.
Yeah, so our quality was better, and we have robots, and we were checking 100% inspection to make sure this client would never have an issue, number one. And number two, we had very deep inventory. We have a deal with them, a min-max deal, minimum we're allowed to have in the building, and the max we would ever have. And they're an extraordinary company, and we got their back, and we always had deep inventory, so they never would... we would always comply whenever they would require it. And because of that theme, they gave us this wonderful opportunity. So it's very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We're very proud. Please.
So with the tariffs on steel of 25% for most imports, how's that going to affect you, mentioning that you bought steel in the United States, and what sort of strategies do you have to deal with that?
This is a deflating conversation. Okay. This was already tried in 2002. It was a huge failure. We lost 200,000 fabricator jobs. Okay. This is not a wise strategy. So I only buy from Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. That's where my steel comes from, right? So you would think I'm immune, right? Logically, right? Because I'm only buying domestic. Here's the problem. The last time, and I'm sure what's going to happen again this time, is that the domestic mills are going to capitalize or exploit this paradigm, right? Their competitor, China, goes up 25%. What am I going to do? I'm going to raise my price 24.5%, right? So I anticipate, just like under Bush, 2002, we're going to have the same kind of drama. Here's the problem. The Germans, these are my formidable competitors, smart, good quality. Their prices didn't go up 25% last week. Mine probably will, okay? So here's the challenge, is that my competitor Germany doesn't have a price increase, I have a price increase, so we're going to be at a significant disadvantage. Mexico, Canada, Japan, their fabricators didn't feel the price increase, right? So the people I compete with, Mexico, Canada, Germany, Japan, right? They didn't have a price increase, right? Here's the problem. 6 or 7 million employees in America are fabricators. That we consume the steel and we bend it well to do something to it, right? In America, only about 100,000 are steel workers in the mills. But here's another issue. My heart bleeds for the steel mill guys because they're getting the shaft. China's dumping, right? So we got two problems here. Number one, we got one problem where the steel mills are getting horribly mistreated because they're getting dumped on. And then on the other hand, you have 6 or 7 million fabricators that are now going to have their prices increased 25%. That's not any good for those guys. And when Bush tried this, we lost 200,000 jobs, okay, in the fabricator bucket. We lost no jobs in the mill bucket. I mean, in the coulda, woulda, shoulda, if I was king for the day, what I would have done was I would have sat down with Merkel in Germany and Canada, Trudeau, and I'd say, you know, with 4 or 5 big countries, Japan, Mexico, and let's say let's all in unison, together on the same day, well planned, let's go after the countries that are just dumping, that are bringing stuff in below cost. It's unacceptable. That's happening, and my heart bleeds for the mill guys. The problem is there's going to be horrible repercussions for the 6 or 7 million fabricators. You met 6 of the new employees; they're going to be directly impacted, right? Because if our sales go down now because of that, it's not going to help those 6 people. Please.
Do you think that discussion might come around, or might Germany just on its own then also raise a bit of a tariff but still be competitive?
I mean, if I was Germany, I wouldn't do anything because I would try to eat America's lunch.
But they could still raise theirs a little bit and still be below.
True.
Perhaps.
True. I don't know how this is all going to game out. I mean,
Yeah.
there's another way this could happen, is that we have so many exemptions to Canada, to Mexico, etc. Canada's our biggest. We import most of our steel from Canada. That maybe, I mean, this is a theory, okay, that it's going to be so watered down, it's a non-issue, and some of my anxiety is actually not relevant because it's so watered down, we're bringing the stuff in from China and Mexico, that the mills never get the courage the domestic mills never get the courage to exploit this matter. Maybe.
Do you have any strategy to sort of combat that as far as trying to have contractual pricing for a period of time with your best customers, or any strategies politically? I mean, what are you doing about it, realizing it's a problem?
Lots of praying. So this new job we got that we stole from the Indians, we have a deal where if it's plus or minus 5% on material cost, we get to raise or lower prices based on the material cost delta. So we have a 3-year contract in this case, right? So if the prices fluctuate more than 5%, we share with them what our prices are, so they know what our steel mill cost is. And so it's very above board, we're transparent. So if that invoice changes by more than 5% up or down, their prices changed effectively the same amount. So we're very above board with that client, and that's how we address that. With all of our custom jobs, we're writing now in our quotes one day, this quote's good for 1 day. Because the steel market is now so volatile today, because nobody knows what the heck's going to happen. In the past, we used to say 30 days for quotes. Any other questions? God bless you. Oh. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.